And hello, everybody. It's Sasha here. Hi. And welcome back. As part of our Free to Fly online conference and fashion show, we are going to be here today with Amy. I'm going to let Amy do some talking here in just a second. But as you know, this was sponsored by the Freebirds Project, and it's all geared towards helping awareness and helping people and survivors of domestic violence. So absolutely fantastic to be here today. And we've got an extra awesome treat, one that I mean, it's definitely a topic that I adore. But as I mentioned, I've got Amy here with me, and she's going to be chatting with us about gratitude and empowerment. It's so very exciting. So I'm going to kick this over to Amy right away. Amy, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and, well, your story?
A bit about me. Well, hello. I'm Amy, and I was really excited to talk about gratitude and empowerment because gratitude not only, empowered me, it really saved me through a time in my life. Something I think we all face is uncertainty and life kind of changing when we don't expect it to. And for me, it certainly did. I was kind of like a theater teen growing up, and I thought I had my life all figured out. I was gonna go to college to study musical theater, and that was going to be my life. I was really driven as a teen. When I was 17, I was actually, sexually abused by my voice teacher, who I had studied with for 2 years. And not only that, he became my godfather and my mentor, and basically someone who I really trusted and looked up to as more than just a teacher, but just as a real mentor in my life. And my reaction was I went into complete shock. I left my body and I became very numb, and I don't even remember anything that happened for months. And I was really holding that secret inside for months until I really physically couldn't take it anymore, because the anxiety was manifesting and really just this sense of panic where I didn't even understand what was happening. So finally, I told my mother my senior year, and, we were going to get therapy and all these kind of things and find a plan for healing. And then April 25th, 2005, I just got a really bad stomach ache, and it wouldn't go away for 2 days. And the pain just kept getting worse and worse. So my dad decided to, take me for an x-ray. And apparently, there to the emergency room, my cheeks actually puffed up because there was so much pressure building up inside my abdomen. And I guess surgeons, when they cut me open, my stomach literally hit the ceiling of the operating room because there was so much pressure. And basically, trying to sum up a really long story, but I was in a coma for months. And I had just gotten my college acceptance letters that week. I woke up really not knowing what the heck was going on, really in the twilight zone. And doctors told me that now I had no stomach anymore, and I couldn't eat or drink, and they didn't know if I'd ever be able to again. So talk about waking up in a totally new, different life. And I won't go through all the little details. I gave a TED Talk which kind of explains all the ups and downs, but it turned into surgeries and 6 of the past 10 years unable to eat or drink anything until my digestive system was really miraculously reconstructed. And once I could eat, everything would be great and I'd be happy and life would be normal. But what I didn't anticipate was that, I had become so numb, the abuse, which I never really healed from, but, from years just training myself not to think about food and just to get through. So once I could eat, the physical work was basically done, repairing me, but really I had to now do the emotional work, because food was actually making me feel for the first time. So now, years later, I had to go back and process the abuse that had happened years ago, grieve all the losses from the medical traumas. And really, once I was able to do that, that's how I was able to heal. And so this is where gratitude really came into play for me, believe it or not, because throughout all this trauma, I never really got therapy because, I was so busy getting through medically that a therapist told my parents, she can't eat, she can't drink. I'm not going to stick her in a room and make her talk about her feelings. And he was right. So I was really forced to really go inside and discover inner resources that really helped me through. And I kind of boiled these down to what I now call like my 4 essential survival skills, which are so basic that they almost seem like just stupid inspirational wall hangings you see at like Home Goods or something. But, this was all I had. And what's great about these 4 survival skills is, you don't need a prescription. You don't need a fancy workbook. You don't need to study psychology. These are things I discovered myself. So the first one was creativity. And for me, creativity has always been, a go-to, because that was how I knew myself as a kid. I did theater, I loved music, I loved art, but this is more than just, for people that already think they're artists. I believe that everyone deserves to create, and they need to create, because it's a way that to express what's too overwhelming for words. And for a long time, I didn't have the words. So, I tell people just, doodle or listen to music. Do something where you're not forced to think actual words, because when trauma happens or anything in life that we don't expect, things we feel, you just can't put those into words. But what gets it out of you is the ability to express it. So that's why creativity is so important. The second skill is gratitude. And, especially for the time of Thanksgiving, this is important. But the reason why gratitude is such a survival skill for me is not because it makes you think positively or, put a smile on, because the truth is, when life does not go as you expect, it's not great. You don't want to just tell yourself, let me think of the positive. Gratitude was a survival skill. I didn't discover gratitude till very late. My 27th surgery. This surgery was my first elective surgery. I had an ostomy, and I finally had the option of reversing this ostomy, which after 26 surgeries was a big risk. And I took it. And it went terribly. It turned into 3 emergency surgeries in 8 days. And this was the biggest disappointment to me, because I was already medically stable. I was already healthy. And so I felt a lot of undeserved guilt, and regret, oh, if only I didn't do this. So I was stuck in the hospital, and I was eating at this point. Had food and drink taken away from me for another 4 months. I was stuck in the hospital. They nicked my bladder in surgery, so I had to wear a catheter in a purse for another year after that, and I was so frustrated. So I actually took a piece of paper and I labeled it from A to Z. And I just made myself write down something I was grateful for every letter, not to get my head in a better place. It was honestly to just give me something to do, because I was bored as hell. It was all hospitals are bad, but not really. But so I kept those lists, and I made myself complete a gratitude list every day. again, just to have something to kill time. And it was really, really hard to come up with every letter when you're mad at the world and you're in a hospital for a bad surgery. But I found that every day it got a little bit easier. And I kept doing it. And then what I noticed is that the items on my gratitude list, I've started seeing recurring themes, just like similar kind of things I was listing. And I realized that what I was writing down on my gratitude list, those were really my values, and for nature. Oh, right, like being connected with the world is important to me. M for mom. Oh, my family is important to me. And the more gratitude lists I kept, the more those values were reminding me who I really was outside of my medical circumstances. And I realized the importance of gratitude because I found that when we know what we're grateful for, we know what we're about. And so I realized values are like arrows telling you where you need to go when life takes a detour. Because I think the most frightening part about detours in life, and all my surgeries and traumas were definitely detours, the most frightening part is we don't know how to make decisions anymore because suddenly everything we planned out falls through. So that's why gratitude is so empowering, because it re-anchors us in who we are outside of our circumstances. So 2 more survival skills. My third one is hope. And hope is very misunderstood. It's not like this inspirational beam of light that comes to you from a mountaintop while you're meditating. Hope is a job. And it's something we need to actively do. It's a very active thing. And sometimes it's just lying to yourself. An occupational therapist that I met once called it therapeutic lying. And if you read books and adventure novels, you call it willing suspension of disbelief. Sometimes lying is all we have, but it's our job to do that just to make it through to the next, turn in the road. Example of how I did that is, I was discharged from the hospital, medically stable, but doctors still had no idea when or if I'd ever drink again. They sent me home on IV nutrition. So I actually took a big whiteboard and I would write 7 days till I can eat again, 6, 5, 4, and I would get all the way down to 0. And when I got to 0, I would just start the countdown over again, just as a way to keep myself going. And my final survival skill is stories. I really was not able to heal until I was able to share my story finally. And I did that finally in 2012 for the first time, really. I took all the journal entries I'd written in my room for years, and I put together a one-woman musical about my life. And I called it Gutless and Grateful. And this was the first time I was really sharing my story with the world. And what I didn't realize was that people would actually relate to my story. For the first time, I wasn't this freak thing you heard about on the news, like girl's stomach exploded. I realized that although what I had been through was extreme, the emotions I experienced, like the disappointment, the pain, the uncertainty, and ultimately, the gratitude, those were things that everyone goes through. So for the first time, I felt normal. And that's when I had the realization that through telling our stories, we finally fit in, we finally feel human. So I am such a strong advocate of finding any way to get your story out of you and into the world. But it took me almost a decade to find the words and the courage to share my story. So I always say, you're not ready to share your story. You may not be ready to share your story, but then the best thing you can do is just read stories, listen to stories, hear the stories of others, because what that does is it plants the seed in our awareness that other people have been through difficult times and they have come through the other side. And we might be so position that we might not be ready to, think about what happens on the other end, but we'll remember those stories, even subconsciously, and we'll hang on to those. So when we do get to the point where, we get far enough where we see we can get to the other side, we'll remember those, and those stories will empower us. It's like someone putting tracks in front of you to know where to go. So yeah, those are the skills we all have that I learned along the way, and I'm still using them. My life is still full of detours, but so is everyone else's. So yeah.
Oh, that is an absolutely fantastic story, and I'm really glad that you were able to share that with us. And I have so many questions that went whizzing past, but I'm gonna focus on a couple. So I really liked how you employed hope. How did you find the means to continue hoping after 26 and 27 surgeries?
You know what? I had a lot of times where I lost it too. But the good part about hope is you can lose it, and it's always there. So had that whiteboard thing, that was like one of the first ways I did it. Sometimes I looked to like prayer, and it wasn't like always a religious thing, but for me, nature has always been a healing source for me. So, I would take a nature walk, and I would just, see the world bigger than myself and be like, you know what, there's more to just this moment. I'm going to just like have faith that things will get better. Part of, and I recommend to anyone to watch my TED talk, but I call like myself a detourist, which is someone who has detours in life, and they not only take that path in front of them, they embrace it. And part of being a detourist is you're open and you're curious. I think curiosity is also one of the best survival skills. Curiosity is an interesting word because it means that when life doesn't go as we expect, it's not an immediate, oh, this is going to be meaningful, or, oh, this sucks. It's okay. It's an awareness, like, okay, this is different, but I'm curious. And so we show up, and, sometimes like hope is just putting one foot in front of the other.
And that's a great way to put it, that one foot in front of the other. And hope is definitely one of those things that, we can continue to see in human history as a primary motivator to people getting past and beyond what they have been dealt. So I think it's absolutely fantastic that you actually consider that a survival skill.
The simplest way to put that is just fake it till you make it. It's easy as that.
Absolutely. And how long did you find it took before you could really adopt that way of thinking?
Oh God, you can't answer it like that because, again, like I definitely don't want to paint a picture of, this stuff, like life does not happen in a straight line. It's peaks and valleys. Like, even living in the ICU for almost a year with my entire family, by the way. I have 3 amazing brothers and parents, and they literally live with me, which is crazy. But, even in the ICU, I would have these moments of great hope, like, oh, the first time I was disconnected from my IV pole. I remember that so vividly. It was the first time that I could actually walk around with nothing attached to me. And I remember thinking, oh my God, things are going to get so much better. You know, it was like, this is my movie moment where I know we're going to fight this. And then, you know, the next week you'd be back on because there's a setback, and you let yourself have that moment of, oh my God, I have no hope. You know, because if you try to shut that out, you know, you're just going to repress all those emotions, you know, the anger, the fear. So my biggest recommendation is, you know, feel those feelings of disappointment, feel that anger, like feel yourself not wanting to hope, and use that energy creatively, you know, express that through art, talk about it, don't keep it locked up, express it enough to just feel it and let it pass, because the good part about good feelings and bad feelings is they all pass if you let them. And I really feel that once you let yourself like have that disappointment, eventually that will kind of like fizzle out, and there will be, you know, as long as there's another day, as cheesy as it is, there's a reason to hope. And again, I gotta say, that's something I tell myself still. Surgery was a huge disaster. It was 5 years ago, and believe it or not, I still have an open wound that is driving me crazy, and I'm still looking for answers. You know, a big part of why I'm sharing my story, honestly, is I'm hoping there's a crazy enough surgeon somewhere that has an answer to this, because I'm living a functional life, but it's very difficult. So hope is something that I have to wake myself up to every day, and it's something we all do, I think.
Absolutely, and I mean that's a good point, especially when you're faced with options that aren't always the greatest. Hope is that enduring factor, and it's just been absolutely fabulous having you here. We've just about come up to our time, but is there anything else that you'd like to add for our viewing audience, where they can connect with you, where they can find you?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing is where, you know, all the advice I gave, I have so much more where that came from. You've only heard, believe it or not, you've only heard about 10% of my crazy story. So please find out more on my website, amyoes.com. You can also see my TEDx talk at my website /TEDx. I'm all over the place on social media, you know, Facebook, Twitter. I'm probably the most active on Twitter because it's so kind of addictive. My handle is AMYOES. And I also have like free ebooks on creativity, speaking and sharing your story. I'm touring with my speaking, I'm touring with my show. Again, lots of stuff that's on my website. And most excitingly, my book is going to be available for pre-order this spring. But again, go to my website and definitely send me a note if you heard this. I really love hearing from people because, like I said, it's about sharing your story. And last thing, I also have opportunities for people to share their detours on my site. Once a week, I share someone's story. So lots of reasons to contact me, and I would love to hear from you.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. So everybody out there in the audience, if you heard that, definitely ways that you can contribute. You can tell your story too, which I think is fantastic. And for me and for our viewing audience, thank you so much for joining us today, Amy. It has been wonderful. And guys, for all of you out there watching and showing us the love and support, don't forget to like, share, follow, whatever you need to do. We are also on Twitter. We're on Facebook. And of course, to see more of these amazing sessions, you can find out more at thefreebirdproject.org, and the fashions you'll find at thefreebirdprojectshop.com. So thank you so much, everybody, and I hope you have an excellent evening.
Thank you.